Let's get into some of the questions. We've got a lot of B9 3.0 T questions here. Why do you do full E85? EPL only offers E40.
Because we're able to on stage one.
Yeah, we don't know why anyone wouldn't.
Yeah, no, and this we had enough headroom in the fueling system for these, so yeah. Oh, and we tested it very thoroughly on both the S4 and the Q platform.
You just pull up to the pump and you fill it up with E85. I mean, that's kind of what everyone wants. On the B8 3.0 T, there are some limitations that prevent that from as far as fuel system capacity. But we immediately wanted to test the B9 fuel system capacity with full E85, and we were able to generate about 480 crank horsepower and about 600 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
So, and no blending or mixing.
Yep. So, and that's, I mean, in the future we'll have to either modify the fuel system or do something else as you normally would to try and run E85 on a with bigger turbos and that kind of thing. So it's not like it's limitless headroom, but there's enough there for the stage one that we're running.
Someone's asking, how are your torque values higher than APR, EPL, or Unitronic?
A lot of time was spent there.
Yeah, we don't necessarily compare our numbers to to what else is out there, but we did spend a lot of time working in that area of the tuning, and so we can only assume that they're leaving a lot of power on the table in that area, and that's something that they can probably look into if they'd like to.
Yeah. It wasn't a simple affair on this one. It wasn't just hey, they chose to map it that way or whatnot. There's a number of issues that we had to work around with the way this factory ECU was mapped in that particular, basically the meat of the torque range.
Yeah. And there are some clues on the product page where we talk about what we did.
Yeah.
And so we pretty much put it out there to a certain degree, but all of our advertised power numbers are generated from an average set of dyno pulls that we did on two different dynos. And they're not glory pulls, they're not cold pulls. These are what we consider accurate advertised numbers that any of you all will be able to duplicate if you go to a dyno out there. They are not inflated or boosted in any way, and we even talk on the product page where we leave all the natural dips and variance and the volumetric efficiency of this motor. We leave all that.
Yeah, it is. The motor is pretty peaky the way the stock hardware all kind of works together. So you've got a pretty big torque spike right as boost comes up, it dips down, then it comes back up. That's all just kind of natural flow through the motor on this particular case. So it's everything from valve lift to the turbo sizing to cam timing to all these factors play into it.
And I will say the torque is noticeable on E85. I've only driven our SQ5 with it. It's freaking ridiculous. I mean, I don't think there's a Raptor or a Hemi anything out there that will keep up with this car like on E85. It's ridiculous. And it has 600 foot-pounds of torque, and you feel it, and it's smooth as butter. But it's a freaking rocket ship. And you just have to put E85, which is actually cheaper than gas.
Yeah. I don't know.
If you can find it.
Countrywide, I'm not sure if that's the case, but for us, it's the cheapest fuel at the pump, and it's where all the fun
is. And you don't have to mix it. You just run your tank down to empty and fill it up with E85, and holy crap. And that's stage one. So.
To be clear on that, we recommend we always recommend you have a ethanol content analyzer if you're going to run E85, because E volumes will, or percentages
like
will
E60,
vary.
E65.
Secondly, though, it takes a surprising amount of time for that like 91 or 93 to pump through the lines, through the filter and everything, and get to the motor. So you want to make sure you've got your ethanol at the motor, just like you would any tune. Before you really start running.
What's the highest ethanol content able to be run for the B9 full E85?
I mean, we're running at our pump here. It's typically E80, and that's where we're at. E80, E85. I wouldn't say go run E100. There's no need to.
I mean, if that's all they have, could they? We haven't.
It's going to be pushing. We haven't tested E100.
No.
The tune.
I don't even know if I don't even know how readily available.
It's not usually. You have to. It's either very special pumps or you have to order it specifically. So yeah, the tune is set up for E85. Will it tolerate E100? It might. But
It might. We have to test that to say for sure. Do you have to switch maps, or does it automatically change from pump
no,
to ethanol?
you have to switch. This isn't a full flex fuel yet.
It's not flex fuel. Yeah, so you'll just have to pull out your laptop and
Yep.
plug the cable.
It's a I think a 30 or 40-second flash. It's quick.
B9.5 ETA.
So the some 2020 and then 2020, some 2021. It's kind of intermixed. ECUs have a different processor on board. We are going to be supporting that. I think within a month or so is the current estimate. So they're coming right along. The calibrations and stuff aren't a problem. It's just some server side things we're wrapping up to get those flashed.
We hope to have that real soon for everyone with the new cars. So hang tight.
This is the first time Audi or VAG has really kind of just rolled the dice to pick what kind of processor and what kind of control units in the car. So there's a couple more. We're kind of chasing them around to support everything that's out there. They're literally intermixing, processor architectures within models and within sometimes it's almost the same box code. So it's pretty tricky to keep up with, but we've got a handle on where what we need to do, and it shouldn't be too long.
How will your stage 2 hybrid file upgrades be priced? Do we need to buy the full tune again? Nope. So it'll be the same as what we've always done. So if you buy stage 1, which right now is $795, not including the cable, eventually it'll be $850. When we come out with stage 2, we don't have the pricing for that, but let's just say it's $100 more. Then you will only have to pay that $100. And when you pay that $100, we will make the stage 2 file accessible to you on the server. Full hybrid and stage 3 will be similar, so those will be priced higher, and then you'll just have to pay the difference. Right. So you will never have to pay for the same tune twice. And that's our commitment to making it a
it's how we always do our upgrade path. So once you're in our ecosystem, it's just stair steps from that point. So, do you want to talk about the TCU stuff then?
And someone's asking about the need for the TCU. So we talked about this in the past few episodes, and it's on the product page if you read through the features and our explanations. But basically, the ECU and TCU work together in the car, and the TCU is monitoring the amount of torque that the engine's producing. And if at any point the TCU feels like too much torque is being produced for something that would affect the transmission, then the TCU will request a torque reduction from the ECU. Some of the other tuners, most from what we've seen, disable that connection between the ECU and TCU. So if there's a tuner out there that's offering a stage 1 flash that's an ECU flash only, it means they've cut that connection off between the TCU, and that the ECU is now full control over torque all the time.
There's a couple of ways it can be done without a TCU flash. You can either under-report torque to the TCU, which the TCU just thinks it's happy and fine with the amount of torque being produced. However, you're actually making more torque, which usually results in shift quality issues, clutch slipping. Just your overall driving gets mushier, or it's not consistent.
Explain why there are clutches. See if they just set clutches.
Well, it's any transmission, clutches, torque, any of the torque management that the transmission's trying to do, where it's got various pressures and valving and whatnot that are supplying
the clutches
pressures to
connect and disconnect the drivetrain, right? So there's still automatically controlled, hydraulically controlled clutches inside an automatic transmission. They're not the same exact kind that are in a DSG. They're definitely not the same as in a manual. But they're automatic.
And there's a bunch of there's a valve body in the automatic that's moving these pressure channels around to apply pressure to various parts of the transmission for either gear actuation, clutch engagement, whatever. All that's based off of the amount of torque it's expecting from the ECU or from the engine.
Can I address that real quick? So the engine is telling the ECU, the engine's making this much torque, and then the transmission TCU that I'm making this much torque. And then the transmission TCU says, oh, that's a lot of torque. Let's increase the torque holding power.
Yep.
But when you fudge that, the transmission can no longer increase the torque holding power of those clutches. And that's where the slipping and, the worst performance comes in.
Yeah, instead of the transmission being proactively controlling those pressures, where you're like, okay, I've got this much torque coming, it's coming this quickly, I need to apply this much clamping pressure to manage that. It's now reactive, where it applies what it thinks is the right amount of pressure, and then it sees the shafts are slipping, and it has to then catch up or try to catch up if it can.
Right.
And
because it then has to stop the slip after the fact.
Yeah,
not
which is much more difficult than managing a locked interface.
So because of all that, we keep the TCU. Now, we did not wait to release this till we had a full featured TCU tune. So our TCU flash simply updates the TCU to the ECU
the torque,
tuning,
the torque management,
which is all in the torque management. We haven't added any other features to the TCU yet. So we didn't feel like we could sell it for $600, which is what we would normally sell a TCU file for.
Right.
And we didn't want to fudge the ECU tuning to not include it. So we're basically including it for free right now, and we're giving it a $150 value. And so in the future, when we release a full featured stage 2 TCU file, which we will, we anyone who bought stage 1 now will get $150 credited to them. So if it's $600, they'll only have to pay $450. But we felt it was very important to include the TCU for all the reasons we've explained. And again, these are all outlined on the product page as well. And this is an area that we decided not to.
We didn't want to compromise on the way.
We didn't want to compromise.
The torque structures, are going back and forth. And this is stuff we've kind of, way back since we started doing DSG or any transmission tuning. It became very quickly apparent how important it was to maintain that symbiosis between the ECU and the TCU.
And this is the same reason on our B8 stage 1, we do sell a B8 stage 1 that works without a TCU tune, but we have to reduce the torque greatly.
The TCU will, the TCU will, because it's still in control. It's going to say, hey, I hit my 500 Newton meter.
The TCU still does.
We'll limit what the ECU can put out, but the B8's a little different because those were offered manual, and then there's some other cars that other driveline options in those. But yeah, in this case, we wanted to offer it to make sure everything's working correctly together.
Yeah. Someone's asking about 92 octane.
92 is always a struggle. It's kind of its own thing in the Northwest.
Yeah.
We'll almost always recommend you run the 91 file on that.
And
what we've seen.
And in our experience, the 91 and the 92 file are quite compatible. And if there's any extra octane, the ECU will take advantage of that.
Yeah, you'll end up with maybe a little smoother or.
But there's going to be no advantage to run the 93 file, and we recommend not doing that because the last thing you want to do is be under octaned.
Yeah.
You always want to be over octane. If you're over octane, then there's timing that the ECU is pulling, and so if there's an extra octane, the ECU will take advantage of that through the knock detection system. But definitely run 91. We may, we'll consider doing a 92 specific file in the future, but we've just found that the 91 file is pretty optimal already.
Yeah, and maybe you've got a really good 92 setup around you, but most of what we've seen, they're not that much better than the 91 we have here.
Any long-term issues running E85? Should I run a tank of pump gas now and again? I mean, I don't think swapping in a tank of 91 or 93 is going to, if there's an issue with the 85, it's going to be based on the amount of exposure over time. Most of these fuel systems that we've seen are E85 compatible. They don't have corrosive parts in the fuel system. So these cars are really new and this application is really new, but there's nothing that we would say needs to be considered to run E85. It's again, all the factory fuel system components are good quality, non-corrosive materials and have coatings and things like that. Hybrid turbo files, yes, we are working on those. We will have TTE 710 and Pure 750 options. We are working on those, we don't have a release date, but our goal is definitely to release them this year. We're heavily focused on B9.5 T right now, so we're moving and working on stage 2, and then for all the racing people out there, and then we will jump right into the stage 3 stuff. We don't anticipate the stage 2 will take a lot of time.
No.
It's just it's a incremental change from stage 1.
From where we're at now, it's not a huge leap.
So hopefully, by the summer or the fall, we will have those stage 3 products out. But I'll just say, if you can get into stage 1 right now and you have access to E85, that will hold your attention for a while.
Yeah.
You won't even need to watch TikToks at all. It's so freaking exciting. You won't even need that. No, it's seriously, it's balls to the wall fast. And again, the sedan's 400 or 500 pounds lighter than what we've been driving. We have a sedan. It's at another tuning facility that we have out east that has access to 93 octane and things like that. So, when will there be map switching for B9? Definitely something we're looking into and considering.
It's tough because it's so easy to switch maps right now.
Is,
it's like I said, 30 to 40 seconds, and you're done.
Yeah, it's really simple, and we can spend that engineering time on other cool features that, you can already switch maps. You just have to plug in the cable on the laptop. So, no, I understand. So, it's something we're looking into and we're considering. I think certainly we do what customers want, and if the feedback is unanimous, we will do it. We will spend the time to bring it to market. Do you guys have a sense of what level of horsepower and torque on this platform might require addressing internal component upgrades? We don't yet. Typically we use a rough guideline of 100 foot-pounds per rod, and so in that case we're as far as a safe range for these motors, we're right there with stage 1. We'll have to keep pushing things and see, what happens.
And obviously, generally the more power you make, you're on a bigger turbo. That torque gets, either dropped from what a stock turbo can do, or a smaller turbo can do, or shifted, enough that it's
like a stage 3 is
it's
not necessarily going to have 600 foot-pounds of torque.
Right.
It probably won't.
Yeah, it'll have a lot more top end.
Yeah, a lot more horsepower, but the torque is the issue, and these rods typically bend at the torque peak, which is right in that 2,000 to 3,000 RPM range. But whatever we release, we will have tested, and we will make a confident recommendation on.
Yep.
And for stage 1, we have no concerns, and it's been tested. What do you do to manage heat on the EA389 3.0 T? Well, we talk about this a lot on the product page.
Yep.
You want to go into some detail?
I mean, it's proactive. So as
like the factory.
Yeah,
the factory
it's similar to the factory strategies. We if anything are we're obviously making more heat with these files due to the higher boost pressures and higher outputs. So we're very proactive about it. I think at threshold right now, once it starts getting high 70s into 80 C intake temperature range, it'll start doing power derating, so that your
pull the boost
power output will start coming down to manage those temperatures. And we did that. We tested that multiple times, on 91 on track in a SQ5. So, we were trying with a complete stock cooling system. So we were really trying to make sure that we're in a good place, that it's, proven to be, good, reliable, managed thermal performance.
The increased boost and power does create more load on the cooling systems, which is why it's so important to keep all the factory safety features and strategies in place.
Yep.
You don't need a bigger intercooler to run stage 1, but we do recommend it.
Yes.
E85 is a little better because E85 just naturally has a cooling effect.
Well, you're pushing alcohol. Then you're pushing a bunch more fuel mass through, so it's just the cooling tendencies of it are going to be better than gasoline.
And then we do actually bring the boost down a little bit on the E85 tune, and we more than make up for the power with additional ignition timing, which also cools things down. But on the 91 file, I would say an intercooler is a good idea. Especially like on track, you're gonna start hitting the thermal management pretty quickly, especially on a warm day without an intercooler. We haven't seen too many issues with coolant temps.
No,
The cooling
no.
system, the
Well, so that's another. So
is
to that end,
is up
that is actually something that is recalibrated and remapped within the ECU. So these have
Sure.
these have targeted cooling and mapped cooling systems. So
Yeah.
we do actively adjust and account for the higher load with more cooling strategies.
yeah. But the size of the radiator and the amount of coolant
Yeah,
in the system,
physically we haven't had an issue with any.
and there was extra capacity we were able to tap in the tuning so that we can target some lower temperatures than
Right.
what the factory normally would.
Yep.
But yeah, these cars are as safe as stock as far as thermal management goes.
Right.
Thanks to how we've done the tuning and calibrations. Can I bind the tune today for 10% intro discount and wait till the B9.5 files are ready?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. We just, we're shooting
Yeah,
for about a month or two,
With any of these, the sooner we know exactly what ECU you've got, what box code you've got,
Which
what
will
needs to
help
be
us,
done.
right.
That'll help prioritize that, in the queue. So yes, the more information we can get.
with that information, you'll actually also get a better priority in
Right.
addition to getting a better price. We will, the first person that buys 2021 tri-core processor version, you'll be first on the list, right? So definitely go for it as long as you're willing to exercise some patience.
Yeah.
But we will work with you, and of course, we have a money back guarantee if you can cancel your order anytime too.
And we also, for the calibration stuff, we will not, enforce that from data purchase. That's going to be, once you get the thing installed.
It doesn't. Your return period or cancellation period doesn't start until the order is delivered.
Right.
What do beta users have to say about real-world performance improvements and retention of OEM drivability with the E839 tune? Nick,
How's the tune been doing?
It lights up 295.
Nick is one of our beta testers. So the SQ5 that we have is actually his car.
I can just flip you over here so you can chat, or you can slot in here.
Yeah, I daily drive about 75 miles a day on it. I've been driving on the 91 and 85 file for the last couple of months. And I mean, it's a car that I use to tow. I commute every day. I listen to, the radio, and then I gap people on highways, on ramps and off ramps in Mexico. It does everything you could physically want a tune to do. It's linear. Throttle mapping is finally changed to where you can actually have a smooth application of power. It's not jerky or peaky. It doesn't fall off at the top. It goes all the way to redline, pulling really smooth and strong. Seriously, can't complain.
Yeah.
There's nothing more I could want with that other than, more power.
And you drove it through all the tuning iterations too. So Nick experienced issues with the tune and various problems that have all been corrected and improved and eliminated along the development path.
That's part of testing.
Yeah.
And we found all those critical things that need to get changed. It was perfect. Can't complain.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what better guy to do the marketing than the guy who's been driving it the whole
Then
time?
the one bothering you to.
Yeah, but no, the factory or the drivability is as good as factory or better. I've spent a lot of time driving all the variations of these tunes as well. All of our calibrators have been, and beta testers and stuff are all very happy with the smoothness and drivability. That's the only reason we can go live with the product today and release it, is because it's as good as it can be right now, and there are no additional changes or improvements that we can think to make. Of course, until someone finds an issue, then we will correct it. But based on the extensive testing and development that we've done, it's great. And I just now there's an updated final version that we will be delivering today, and so I went out and drove it on the E85 file
On the test track.
30 minutes ago, and it's fucking bonkers, and it's smooth and incredibly fast, exhilarating. So yeah, I mean, it's actually a fast car, which is weird because it's just a huge SUV with big wide tires on it.
It's got a lot of tire under it.
Oh yeah, 295s.
A couple of people are asking about fuel economy. It is, as good or, as with any tune, we're not doing anything that's going to impact fuel economy, other than your driving style. And if you're constantly under high load situations, it's going to be worse because you're making more power now. But light load cruising, commuting won't be any different.
No, it's
if you're
gonna
running
be the
E85, it'll be impacted just because it's a different fuel and you're going to use more fuel no matter what.
I mean, if you're mashing on it and generating 600 foot-pounds of torque regularly, you're going to use
You're going to use more fuel doing that.
you're going to use almost twice as much fuel as stock. But during cruising and light load conditions, it's going to be unchanged. The ECU is going to be in a closed loop, wideband sensor, very efficient. As efficient as it's going to get mode. So we don't change any of that to make it worse.
I haven't seen any change.
No.
There shouldn't be. Yeah. When will Stage 2 TCU Tune be coming out? Like I said, it's the next thing we're working on. So in the next few months, we would say.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a huge. Yes, we're going to be.
It could be
working on
even sooner.
But as far as like requiring it for shift points and whatnot, it's something that's actually not that critical right now on the stock turbo. So, but yeah, we're going to be working on it for sure. Next few months is likely. Very likely to have something that we're in.
And it's a marginal change in the tuning. It's not like a full remap. It's certainly less than a Stage 3. So, does the tune affect the exhaust valve operation? Is there a mode to have them always open versus opening at specific RPMs?
I will try and go back and check that. It's something we've talked about doing. This is one that's a tough one to nail down. Some people want it closed at light load and low RPM. Some people want it open all the time, whether they're in dynamic.
I'm not under an impression that that made it to production.
It was on the list, but I don't know if I'll have to confirm where that got finalized.
Does your tune turn off the auto stop start?
That's another one we did work with a bit. We actually have the option. It's not on this release yet, but we can set it up so that it will remember where you left it. Is it on the final one? Okay, yeah, that one went back and forth as well. I had to look in that.
Okay. Do we have that on the features list?
Okay. So yeah, you can set these ECUs up so they remember where you left it. So if you want it turned off, turn it off, and it should stay off for the next key cycle.
Will Stage 2 remove auto upshift and manual?
That is on the list for Stage 2 TCU Tune. Yeah.
For TCU.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, the current TCU file that we're including for basically free right now, I know it is free, is only augmenting the torque management between the ECU and the TCU. We didn't add any additional features yet.
Right.
But we will release a full featured TCU where that and lots of other things. The other thing we wanted to address is some of the other tuners are selling TCU tunes that increase the redline on a Stage 1 tune, and we could have done that. We just saw no benefit. We could be selling that right now for $600. The stock turbo is completely out of steam by 6,000 RPM. In our redline's around 65 to 6,800 or whatever. And so you can rev it up to that if you need to. For example, if you're on track and you're at the top of third and you just need to like hit 600 RPM and then back off and turn. But there's no advantage to continue to rev past 6 from an acceleration standpoint. So, there will be an advantage to revving higher with Stage 3 tunes. But on the stock turbo, we don't recommend anyone go out and buy a $600 TCU tune right now just for a higher red line. The stock transmission actually shifts really nice.
So it's
a good shifting it's quick.
If anything,
quick
it's
shift.
actually a crisper, better shift than factory. There was a bunch of time spent on kind of remodeling that torque.
With the Stage 1.
With the Stage 1, yeah.
With our Stage 1.
With our Stage 1 ECU. So yeah, a lot of time was spent getting that torque mapping very well modeled to what the engine's actually making.
Yeah. Someone's asking, can you go into a bit more detail on some of the technical advancements that we've implemented in the ECU tuning? Well, we've been doing that up till now. And this whole episode will be available to view as soon as it's over. But again, OEM, the maintaining and augmenting of all the OEM safety strategies for heat management, for torque management. Everything that we've done in this tune is as if the factory had done it. We haven't fudged or disabled any functionality in any of the ECUs to get around limits that are there. Just check out the product page. I mean, we go into great detail there. Better than I could. And we even talk about, I think one of the interesting things that we reveal that I haven't seen other tuners do is, we have a discussion on the product page about volumetric efficiency. And this motor does have a natural drop in volumetric efficiency from 2,500 RPM to 3,000. And it kind of, the VE drops at its lowest is at 3,000 RPM, and then it recovers again by 3,500. That's something that's just built into the inherent VE curve of the engine. And that means that at every RPM point, an engine can convert a certain amount of fuel and air into torque. And there's a percentage attributed to how efficient an engine is at doing that. And the 3.02 is actually really efficient at 2,500 RPM and very efficient at 35. And there's a dip. We don't know why. There's different resonances inside motors where air pulses, and those pulses either make flow through the combustion chamber better or worse. And so typically there's always a resonance somewhere that will either increase VE or reduce it. So that's likely something that's going on inside the motor. And so you'll see a dip in our dyno. All our dyno charts will have this dip at 3,000 RPM. And so what we've done is rewritten the torque management inside the EC. So instead of just throwing more boost at 3,000 RPM to bring some of that torque back, we actually rewrote the torque request logic inside the ECU. And so the ECU automatically requests more torque where the VE dip is. And so we're able to make up some of that loss, but we can't make up all of it because the VE just is lower. But we can make up for some of it with additional boost. And so you'll see that in our curves, and that's supposed to be there. We've optimized it. If you see that missing in other tuners, it's very likely that they've smoothed that out or made their graph look a little nicer. Because I mean, who doesn't want a nice, smooth looking graph? So yeah, we go into more detail on the product page. Definitely check that out. And if you have any questions, shoot us an email to tuning@034Motorsport. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Do you allow free revving in neutral to redline?
I believe that's all been added. Yep.
Yeah, that should be there. Will this tune make its way to the mild hybrid versions of 3.0T on the current gen A6, A7?
It's possible. We have not honestly put that much time into those that exact configuration.
We'll have to look into that.
We got to see. Yeah, but I don't have a solid answer for you right this second.
Yeah. What makes your launch control different? So yes, we did augment the factory launch control functionality.
Yep. The stock, these will typically it's not the launch controls depends what car you're coming from, but like from a DSG, normally that would be clutches are released, your engine's just sitting there at an RPM kind of free revving. On the ZF8, it's a basically a torque limit it's coming up to and trying to hold, and you're basically foot on the brake holding against that torque converter. And if it's not mapped correctly, the ECU will just make a bunch more torque and you'll push through the brakes, or you'll be building a ton of heat in the converter. So we maintain the level of torque at the converter, and then we have an additional step where the ECU will actually build boost kind of behind the scenes by augmenting the ignition strategy. And so you've got all this extra power ready. As soon as you come off the brake, then you get all that power back, converter locks up, and you're up and going. So
we've actually reduced the torque output launch so that it doesn't push into the transmission, into the brakes as hard.
Yeah, but it's not a simple just torque reduction. It's a torque reduction with a boost component added to it. So you get all of the power, basically on tap, ready to go.
I'll put it this way: SQ5, the launch is ridiculous. It's set to 3,000 RPM right now. Our goal will be to add our advanced launch control functionality to all these applications in the future. But even now, I think on the sedan it would be ridiculous, but we're seeing sub 4 seconds in the SQ5 on 0 to 60. I don't know what the quarter mile is, but it's got to be, you know,
Intercooled on that thing is
yeah. But it's still going to be pretty impressive
Yeah.
for a SUV sedan. But yes, I'm not aware of anyone else who's done this with the launch control yet, and we have a lot more coming. So if you buy the Tune now, all those future updates will be free within the Tune stage that you're in. Is the B9 S4 faster than B8 S4 Stage 1 versus Stage 1? I think it makes a lot more torque.
I think it's going to be. Oh,
The problem with
that's gonna be close.
the advantage, there's advantages, disadvantages, but the supercharged engine just can't produce the torque at lower RPMs that the turbocharged engine can do, because the supercharger is not spinning fast enough to produce that much torque. Where the turbo hits full boost by 2,500 RPM, and all that is available at a very low RPM. Peak horsepower to horsepower is not necessarily that much difference.
But I'm going to say the B9. All the numbers look like B9 would be the advantage. I haven't honestly lined them up, and I
think we're going to see that.
But we'll see more info coming soon.
The B9 platform is going to be much more capable and faster than the B8s, but it's never going to crack necks like a B8 supercharged.
No, that's
I mean, you want to crack your neck too, like it's just
still B8 is like
it's
my go-to as like a driver's power band.
Yeah.
You've got tons of power. It's instant. It's on your foot.
It's the best of normally aspirated and turbocharged all in one with the supercharger. So yeah, B8's a great option still. Are intercoolers required? We've been discussing that. Not required, recommended.
Strongly recommended.
Definitely in warm weather, you'll want it, and on like the 91 and 93 tunes, it's especially needed if you want to accelerate back to back over and over again. We offer the excellent Wagner intercoolers on our site.
And you guys coming from like the B8 world are going to know what intake temps are going to do for you for performance. So the cooler you can keep things, the more fun you get to have.
Crackles, cracky, poppy, bangy.
They're there in the they're their OEM. They were retained. We are going to be probably going and
do more.
Playing with those more, but it wasn't a huge priority to get this released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just retained what's stock. We didn't spend any time doing that yet because that's just a more for fun thing, and we'll have plenty more time for shenanigans in the future. Will there be any non-carbon intakes for the B9 S4 S5? Likely. Currently, no, but we are. No, we are. Yeah, no, we're about to release the B9 P34. It should be in the next month or two.
We have a lot of products in the queue. So
yeah,
apologize the brain.
It's a fully
juggling.
It's a plastic and silicone intake for the B9 3.0 T. So that's coming soon. I must not be very far out.
Well, filters, last piece.
Okay, yeah.
Always.
In Canada, we have no E85. Is meth another good option?
Meth's an option. It is not a replacement for E85.
No, and we can't recommend anything on that yet.
No.
But water meth is an option to increase octane beyond 93. That's too bad you don't have E85, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something that we could experiment
Meth's really
with.
tricky because it's something that is completely secondary to the ECU. We have no control over it. We don't know how it's implemented.
Yeah, no idea.
How it's running, how it's spraying. So
Yeah.
that's a really hard one to recommend and tell people to rely on because it's completely outside of out of our control.
Yeah. What is the process for switching from pump gas to E85? How long should I drive the car between fuel changes before flooring it? What we've discussed, get a gauge.
Yeah,
then
get
you
an
want to
amp
get
user.
and once you get to about E65, you're
Somebody also asked if we're going to offer a kit for a content analyzer. Yes, it'll probably be coming along.
yeah. There's already
But there's
some
so many
there.
kits out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get a hold of something.
Yeah. And someone else asking about meth. It's something we can look into in the future. We don't currently have any meth recommendations.
We don't generally tune or calibrate for meth,
If you'd like
especially
to,
from the onset.
if you'd like to experiment with that, you can. It's on you. We don't have a recommendation. Right now, we recommend getting a bigger intercooler, and that will do most of what you need. Let's see, any more B9 before we move on? Will you guys make a cast intake manifold for the EA839 that has a secondary fuel meth injector port? Someone local to me had their plastic intake explode on a 710. Though it may have been a meth backfire. Have you seen what meth does to people? I mean, you got to be careful with that shit. And just Google like faces of meth and see what you find.
Meth explosion.
Yeah, like it just blows people's teeth right out of their mouth. Yeah, I'm sure that was a meth backfire, which is but we will find out. You know, we will let you know if we have.
If it's just to prevent meth backfire explosions, likely.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring more fueling options, and that is one way to get obviously more fuel and whatnot into the motor is some port injection.
I would recommend marijuana. It's much easier on the intake manifold, which is what E85 is basically. It's like the marijuana of fuels. It's safe.
I don't know that it's ever made anybody faster. It's not a side effect I've heard of.
It's made the cars faster. Definitely. But yes, you can sleep well knowing that we test the hell out of this stuff. And if there's any issue with any part on the car, we love to upgrade stuff. So we're going to be trying to blow that thing up if it's blowable.
Yeah, and this is, again, remember, this is stage one, a starting point where we've got a lot more development that's coming.
Yeah. Is this tune available to tuning dealers? Absolutely. There's if you are a 034 Motorsport Dynamic Plus tuning dealer, you should already have received an email about this. Yep. It's all on the server, ready to sell. Pricing is all in the email. If you have any questions, email tuning@034motorsport.com.
Yep.
We're here to help. But yes, definitely. You can flash any cars immediately as of 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. this morning. All right, so that's B9 talk. Very exciting.
45 minutes up. 50.
Please let us know how you guys like the tune. If you have any questions, we're here. Satisfaction guarantee as always, but we know you're gonna love it once you get this file in your car. It's gonna make driving your car so much more fun.
Yeah, whole new beast.
Yeah.